All right, we are live. Welcome to Rise and Outshine. I'm one of the hosts, Jeff Revilla, and I'm joined with one of the other hosts, Wize. Wize, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure as always to be here, and hopefully we have a great show. I was speaking to our guests just a little bit off the air, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see what she's got and how the show is.
And as you know, on this show, we like to get right into it. And Wize is one of the co-hosts with myself and Maria Daniels, and we've been alternating hosts over the course of the couple weeks here. And on this show, we like to talk about one thing, but we're doing all of these shows to get to a main event in September. That's our big goal. And Wize knows if you're in the Pittsburgh area, you better be present because September 27th and 28th,
yes,
we're doing a live show in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with all the shows that come here and do a great job are going to get invited to participate on the main stage at the Paduty Podcast Theater, PODUTY.com. Stay tuned for details. We have some mini events coming up in between, but September 27th and 28th, Wize is going to tell you.
It's the place to be. It's where you have to be at, man. It's a great opportunity for us to share our love for podcasting. It's a great theater. It's a great experience. You actually get to hopefully the goal is to have a live audience there as well. So you'll be doing your show live in front of a studio audience, as well as transmitting virtually and everything else. So I'm excited. I've already been telling people, listen, you need to start booking your tickets now. We started this when we did the first event, the event this year, and me and Maria actually got to spend time in Pittsburgh at the theater, and it was a great experience to be able to actually hang out with one of my good friends. This is the first time me and Jeff really got to meet in person, and Maria as well. So it was just we had a great time.
It's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to meeting more people in Pittsburgh in September. And leading up to that, we're doing at Paduty.com a series of global podcaster meetups. So we're just announcing these now. If you go to Paduty.com once a month, starting February 1st, we're going to do a global event every month, a 3-hour event. We'll have guest speakers. We'll do Q&A. We'll do masterminding and brainstorming, all to help connect other podcasters around the world. That event, just like the event in September, is completely free. There's no charge. You want to register and get a ticket? That's great. Go to Paduty.com, get your global podcaster meetup tickets, and then prepare for September 27th and 28th. We have a great show coming up. Somebody else I met on my trivia show, Ayla Anderson-Sparks, the Curator's Choice podcast. Let's hear that theme music and then bring Ayla on.
We're asking the experts, we're all on a mission to rise in the rankings and outshine the competition. Welcome to Rise and Outshine.
Yeah. Maria Daniels says, I have to do the yeah. Let's welcome Ayla Anderson-Sparks to the show. Ayla, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Glad to have you here. We first met on a trivia show. I host a trivia show called Stuff I Never Do. You were a contestant, and everybody, I think, just enjoyed your company. And one of your stories really resonated with a lot of the fans.
That's good. Well, because I really only had stories. I didn't have any right answers, so at least they enjoyed the stories.
So tell us a little bit about your show. It's the Curator's Choice. We're having you on tonight, and on this show, it's a podcast showcase. So what we do is we bring on podcasters, and the people watching at home and Wize and myself are going to act as judges, kind of like Star Search or the end scene of America's Funniest Home Videos, where you see the audience voting at the end. And what you're going to do, you're going to scan this QR code or type menti.com and type in that code. When you get there, you'll see a little scoring criteria that we're going to judge Ayla's show on tonight. Now, these scores are always done with love, with the intention of helping, and all of us working together to grow a better show. So when you log in, you'll see something that looks like the Curator's Choice podcast with a little scoring widget. you'll be able to slide left and right. We're not looking for tens. Tens, if you gave tens the whole way down the board, you're doing a disservice to the podcast. We want honest, fair scores. Tens would be the best thing you've ever heard in your entire life, which I've heard some of
Hey,
Ayla's
you
shows.
never
It's
know.
possible. It is possible. But what we're looking for strengths and weaknesses in the show to give this feedback back to Ayla in real time. And then after the scoring, you're going to see a word cloud. And this is my favorite part. It's a stream of conscious word cloud where anything that you feel, if you're motivated, inspired, if you laugh, if you hear a funny quote, type that in and it's going to build out this word cloud. And the more times people use the same words, the bigger the word cloud gets. So it's a lot of fun. We usually get 30, 40 entries popping in there. You can anything, the whole show, you can keep typing into there. So Ayla, officially welcome to the show. Where do you do this podcast at? Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from the grand old Hagerstown, Maryland.
Hagerstown, Maryland. Very
Yeah.
nice. And tell us about the Curator's Choice. How'd you come up with this concept? What's the roots, the origin story?
Well, first, I do want to say I absolutely welcome the constructive criticisms. So please don't hold back. Give it to me. I would love to get some no holds barred returns. But where I decided to do this, so I've always been a really big history nerd and a museum buff, and I was joining the Peace Corps. I was going to serve in Malawi in Africa, and I was like, I want to listen to some podcasts about museums. And this was right before the pandemic hit. And I looked it up. I couldn't really find many, which was disappointing because, like I said, huge museum nerd. So I went to Malawi. I was doing my environment work over there, and COVID hit. And we had like 8,000 volunteers worldwide, but the Peace Corps were evacuated. And so, boom, I was with many other people who no longer was employed. So I thought I would try to be constructive. And I was like, hey, do you remember how I couldn't find anything about, museum podcasts that I was interested in? I might as well make one. And so I did. And it's been a lot of fun doing it. And if I'm being honest, one of the huge perks is I usually get to go behind the scenes and get kind of exclusive content. Be like, oh, I'm doing it for my podcast, for my listeners, but really, like, I get to see some really cool behind the scenes museum stuff.
It must be really nice to be able to find a niche that people want to listen to and watch and everything, and you be like one of the people in the front, like, okay, this is it. This is cool. Like,
I love it. And I think it's great too, because I was an educator at a museum for a while. And I feel like the concept of museums are like static, they're for older people to just read a sign and then move on to the next dusty exhibit. And I'm really excited to kind of be a part of the revolution, telling people that they're actually really fun and they can be super engaging, and the whole purpose of the podcast is to just generate interest to support museums. So if you hear something and a museum's near you, you could go visit and offer them your patronage through purchasing a ticket.
Very nice. And it looks like we're going to listen to a clip from episode 32. And you started this journey a little bit after COVID. How many total episodes have you generated so far?
I now have 59 episodes.
Very
So
nice.
yeah, and I've just been so lucky. I've covered really tiny museums. We call them micro and mighty. And I've also covered some really large, popular museums like George Washington's Mount Vernon, and Civil War, things like that. So big and small, all are welcome and enjoyed. But this one that I have coming up is from Las Vegas, and it is the Neon Sign Museum. And it was an interview I had with Aaron Berger. And it was one that I think is fun for people who might not be huge history buffs, which I am, and I can get caught in the weeds. But I'm trying to cater it to people who might not be very familiar with it. So everything's very layman's terms, and trying to make it welcoming for all interest and education levels, I guess you could say.
Very nice. And you said you've been to some smaller museums. Any like really cool small niche museums?
You know what? Yes, there's an Idaho potato museum. It's not super small, but it's exactly what you would imagine. It's literally just a museum all about the Idaho potato. They've got the potato god. They have got the Spudnik. They've got a little cafe where you can have ice cream that's made from potato. I mean, it's fantastic. And then also there was a Indian River Citrus Museum, which is in Florida, and it's just a single room museum, but they pack so much amazing history about oranges and citrus in it. Super fun and obscure. I've also actually done the Pooseum as well, I will say, which is a museum about fossilized feces. So, you know, the wacky and wonderful.
So, Ayla, hearing all these stories, if people wanted to connect and listen to all 59 of your episodes, what's the best way to find you or even connect with you if they want to recommend a museum in their hometown?
Sure. So I love recommendations. If you want me to feature someone, please do send me the museum. And you can get a hold of me at curatorschoicepodcast@gmail.com. And if you're looking to listen to the episodes, you can just search Curator's Choice on anywhere that you get your podcasts, or I publish them directly on curatorschoicepodcast.com.
Awesome. And this episode coming up again, episode 32, the Las Vegas Sign Museum. And I think that's all the questions that I have. Wize, anything else you want to know before we jump into it?
Oh no, I'm excited to actually check out what the podcast is about. It sounds interesting. Me being from New York City, I've been able to growing up. I was able to go to the museums in New York and have a great experience there. So I've always had a great time visiting the museums.
Yay. Keep
Sounds
doing
good.
it.
Folks watching at home, scan that QR code or go to menti.com, type in that 8-digit code. I'll have it scrolling across the bottom during the video. Without further ado, everybody, Ayla Anderson-Sparks, Curator's Choice Podcast. Here we go.
Something that we don't get enough credit for is the fine art that we have here in the city.
Yeah, there's a lot more to Vegas than gambling and a red light district.
You got it. Yeah. So there is a Vegas for people who hate Vegas.
Hi, I'm Ayla Sparks, and this is Curator's Choice, a podcast for history nerds and museum lovers. From ancient relics to modern marvels, each episode of this show features a new museum and a curator's choice of some amazing artifacts housed there. These guardians of history will share insights, anecdotes, and the often untold stories that breathe life into the artifacts they protect. Thanks for tuning in to this Mighty Oak Media production, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Curator's Choice. Today, we're stepping behind the neon glow and venturing into a radiant corner of Las Vegas history at the Neon Sign Museum. With Aaron Berger as our guide, we delve into a treasure trove of glowing lights designed to beckon weary travelers from around the world. Las Vegas's neon signs are more than just advertisements, though. They're also historical landmarks that reveal the city's dark and light past. In this episode, you'll learn not only the ins and outs of neon sign restoration, but also how unique leasing agreements inadvertently became a lifeline for preserving these glowing artifacts. Among the stories highlighted is that of the Moulin Rouge sign, which marked the first integrated casino in the United States and was created by a rarity in the sign industry of its time, a woman by the name of Betty Willis. We also delve into the city's mission to weave these signs into the community's heartbeat, installing them in public places and even enshrining their maintenance in law, exemplified by the legendary cowboy Vegas Vic. Whether you are looking for free aspirin, tender sympathies, or the brightest lights in town, Sin City has something for everyone. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So whenever you think about Nevada, and I mean, every time I tell someone I'm from Nevada, they instantly go, oh, Vegas. When you think of it, you're like Las Vegas, Sin City, you're walking down the strip, there's all these lights. What kind of started off the flashy party vibe of Vegas, really?
Las Vegas was an escape town. It was the place that you would get away with it. And I mean that in almost every sense. So you would get away with it and from it, I think is probably the best way of thinking about it. It is a lot of glitz, a lot of glamour, definitely a lot of glitter. But if you are able to look past that, you can see there is an enormous amount of historic preservation taking place here. And there's a lot of history that's alive and well in this city.
I love it. I have been to Vegas a few times, and every time I go, I don't drink and I don't gamble, and everyone's like, "What are you even doing here?" And there's an incredible amount of history. I think if I had to look back and think of my most iconic sign that I can picture, I don't know exactly which one it is, but it's the man who has the cowboy hat, who has the bent leg, who is moving
Yep.
his cowboy hat like this.
Correct. That's Vegas Vic.
Oh, that is
So
Vegas Vic.
That is Vegas Vic, created by the Chamber of Commerce, and is just sort of this. He was here to welcome people to the city. So he is under the canopy. The original is still there. It is actually, again, Las Vegas law, being quirky and weird. The law is that if you have a neon sign underneath the canopy on Fremont Street, it must be lit. So you cannot turn it off, and it must be maintained.
The city that never sleeps.
That's it. So it is important that we are preserving that history. So I actually had to do an interview with CNN because Vegas Vic went out, and there was a lot of scuttlebutt about that. And
Yeah,
so
what happens if a sign does go out?
it has to be repaired.
So they
It
just
has-
call a repair guy and they're like, immediately this has to be done.
the owner is responsible for maintaining it and making sure that it is in working order. So yeah, so it was these are the kinds of things. But Vegas Vic is fantastic. He's a great, cowboy. And then inside Circa, which is sort of diagonally across from where Vegas Vic is positioned, inside the Circa casino is Vegas Vicky. And Vegas Vicky is there was actually a wedding between the two of them. They're officially married. So
Vegas.
But Vegas Vicky, I know, exactly. But we've talked to the folks who at one point Vegas Vicky had fallen into such disrepair that she was literally being hoisted into a dumpster and being thrown out, and was saved by a property owner, Derek Stevens, here in town, and brought her back to full life. Charles Bernard, who designed Vegas Vicky, is a renowned sign maker, and now she sits literally in the heart of Circa. So wherever you go in the casino, you can sort of see a different avenue or a different sight line of Vegas Vicky staring back at you, and she's got her big cowboy hat, her big grin, and she's a well-endowed country lady. So
The proper welcome to Vegas right there.
Western lady, you got it, exactly. Yes.
How many signs do you have in your collection?
It's a great question. So we have about 250 that are on display, but I have another 600 that are in storage. So that's one of our biggest goals, is to get these guys out of storage and out into the communities.
I would like to point out as well that though it's got all of these signs, they're on the ground, so people can actually come up to them and see them. The signs are not up like how they were in front of the hotel. They're eye level, so you really can see those.
That's a really important point, and I'm glad you said that. That's exactly true. And we want you to be able to see the sign in its detail. We want you to hear that buzz that only neon makes, which is fantastic as well. So,
What is the difference between neon and just a regular light?
so neon is a gas. It's a noble gas. And when it's charged with electricity, that's what gives it its glow. So in most signs that we refer to as neon signs, they're either filled with neon gas or argon gas. One will produce a color of one color, one will produce another color. Then you add powder coatings to the tubes themselves, and that's how you get the variations in color of that. But they're all sort of under the umbrella of a neon tube or neon color.
So the two different ones, argon, what natural color without any powder is argon?
Argon will provide a yellow tube or a yellow color, blue, green, and white, where neon gives you more of that red coloring.
Is there anything in particular that you can see in style or in, I guess, brightness of color? If you are someone coming through Vegas and a trained eye could tell the difference between possibly one that's historic and one that's brand new.
Yeah, so I love that. That's a great question. So one of the things I love to take people up and down Fremont Street. So Fremont Street is really the origin point of Las Vegas, where the Plaza Hotel and Casino stands right now. That was where the original train station was. And the really the birthplace of the city. So I like to take people there and then just kind of walk them up Fremont Street. And one of the things that I always encourage people to look for, and it's really best seen sort of on the Golden Gate Casino, which is right across the street from the plaza. But if you look at the Golden Gate, you're going to see these metal rungs that are attached to the front of the sign. And if you see the Golden Gate, it goes up about, I don't know, 50 feet in the air. And it's got a series of neon outline and flashing bulbs. So the rungs are there because some poor schmo had to climb up that ladder and change out those light bulbs, and would be, this is all pre-OSHA, right? So this is definitely not the safest act in the world. And so as you go through the city, and especially Fremont Street, and look at some of these signs, if you see these metal rungs that are sort of sticking out that don't really make sense with the sign, it was for maintenance. It was totally there so that someone could climb up, change light bulb tubes. If there was damage in some way, they would go through and fix it that way. So yes, that's the thing to look for.
That sounds amazing. I might have to make that trip to Vegas and finally visit the museum.
Come on, we'll show you a good time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting Curator's Choice, a Mighty Oak Media production. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and rating the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you love a museum and would like to hear it featured in an episode, shoot me a message at curatorschoicepodcast@gmail.com. I'll do my best to reach out and see if I can get them to be on the show. You can also view articles, artifacts, and more by following us on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for listening to Curator's Choice, a podcast for history nerds and museum lovers.
All right, we are coming back. Ayla, very nice episode. This was episode 32, about halfway through your catalog. You chose this because you really just liked the backstory. You said you've been to Vegas before, and did you go to the Neon Museum while you were there?
So I still haven't been able to go. So this was usually my episodes are about 30 minutes to an hour long. So this was kind of more of some of the highlights from there, but I haven't been able to go yet. But when I do, I'm going to be giving Aaron a call because that way I can get that behind the scenes content. But it is very, very popular for venues and things like that. So sometimes you do have to purchase your ticket in advance because they sell out quite fast. So that's every time I go, I don't do it in enough time.
I like the scale of what he was collecting, or the museum was collecting. 250 signs on display and 600 in storage. Like that's a lot of signs from Vegas history.
That's the case, unfortunately, with a lot of museums, is they have so much to offer, but really it's just the cost of having a space to showcase it. So you're really seeing a small tidbit of what they actually have in their history, which it's cool because then they can rotate their exhibits, show you new things.
Very nice. Wize, any takeaways while you were listening?
I was really good. I was really engaged. It was really engaging. I love the way he was going into the story of the cowboy and
Vic, yeah.
So that's one thing. You definitely you ask some great questions. You know what you're doing. You're talking about stuff that you love to talk about, museums. And when you find that topic that you're so passionate about, it's easy for you. It's not work. It's more as, okay, I'm having a good time doing this. I'm enjoying asking these questions. These are questions I want to know personally, and so it's very engaging. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to actually listening to the complete episode because I have been to Vegas 3 times, and I will be going back. I actually went to Reno a couple of months ago, so yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. You'll definitely have to check them out.
It's funny because I'm a pit boss in the casino, actually.
Okay, so you'll recognize a lot of their awesome signs. That's fun.
Yeah, I agree with Wize. You had a great command of the interview, and you were literally asking the question I was thinking about. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, you kept steering the interview in the right direction. I thought just your control and the questions that you had were very well thought out. Are those things that you're researching ahead of time, or are you coming up with those as the conversation develops?
It's both. I definitely have like a baseline of questions that I want to ask. I look over their website, see if they have anything in particular that really stands out. But one of the best things about museum people is anybody who agrees to come on my show and wants to be interviewed, they're already extreme nerds in that topic and they're already really passionate. So they make it really easy on me because even if I don't care about trains, I'm like, oh, they're a mode of transportation. But then you talk to somebody who is just visibly excited about everything train, it's very infectious. So it makes it really easy to get engaged and ask those kind of questions. They make it easy for me, honestly.
We have a model railroad train museum about 20 minutes away from us, and they have a big display.
Oh, do you?
So if
Say
you ever,
less.
yeah, if you ever near the Pittsburgh area, I know you said Hagerstown is only 4 hours away from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
We have Andy Warhol and the Model Railroad Train Museum. There's like 1,000 other museums here too. So Ayla, we get to the nerve-wracking part of the show. Everybody, let's get those votes cast in menti.com, type in that 8-digit code or scan the QR code. We'll give everybody one more minute. I'll pull up the website one more time, connect with Ayla, listen to the other podcasts, other 59 podcasts about museums, curatorschoicepodcast.com. If you liked what you heard tonight, there's more episodes waiting for you there, or probably anywhere you get your podcast. That's what most people say nowadays. So Ayla, are you ready for the scores?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Here we go. Let's go over to the feedback for the show. And you're coming in overall at 8.6, which is very good.
That's
That's
awesome.
That's where we're looking at. And some of the things that you kind of prefaced, sometimes you've influenced the audience a little bit, but you mentioned that the audio quality isn't exactly what you'd like for your host or for your guest. That came in a little bit lower, kind of hinted to that to us behind the stage before we went live tonight. So you called that one 7.9. But what's really nice about the scoring is if you look behind the dot where the audio quality is 7.9, you can kind of see the spread of how all the votes came in. You had 7 different people voting for you tonight. And the spread, looks like most people settled right around 8. So overall, 8 out of 10 isn't bad.
Yeah, this is an awesome way to display the data too. This is great.
And then engaging host, I think Wize and I both agree here. Phenomenal job. You kept us interested. Your passion about learning about the museum, I think really kept everything engaging and moving along.
Nerd power. We're such nerds getting nerds together and then we just nerd out,
Nerd power. Unite.
Yes.
And the quality of content was great. I think I didn't even know there was a Vegas Vicky. So I was in from the start as well.
That was news to me.
The content matching expectation, that's one that really comes up to you set the stage and you delivered on it. And a lot of times what we're looking for there is people have a podcast, maybe, let's say, Curator's Choice is about museums, but then they spend the first 20 minutes talking about their trip to the grocery store, right? There's a misalignment there. People came to see stories about museums and you're talking about your grocery store trip. So, you were on point with your messaging. You told us what you're going to tell us, and then you told us. And then production quality, 8.3 is still a strong score in the 8s. Again, recording, when you're not in the same room, when you're recording over Zoom or through a streaming service like we're doing tonight, there are things, but you're all leaning towards, the best in class. Like you said, the audio quality and the production quality were kind of where I think fell probably where you were expecting. Now, after seeing these, how do you feel about seeing the scores?
I feel a lot better. So this episode I chose specifically, as I was mentioning to you guys before, is because I'm sure that a lot of the listeners can understand this. When you're an editor, you are incredibly harsh and on the audio quality side. And this episode for me was one where I felt the content was incredible, but the audio quality was not the best that I've had. My guest was having some issues, which we can all relate to, right? But it was so good that I didn't want to not publish it. So I worked on tweaking the audio as much as I could without making him sound like a robot. And this was really comforting to me, actually, to see that this still scored so highly, because you are your own worst critic. And so when I'm going through and I was listening to this, I was expecting everybody to be like, this audio is so bad, I can't listen to it. So it makes me feel a lot better that it's not a 2 that I was expecting.
I think people will be more lenient on the audio quality when it's a guest. Like your audio quality was solid. You sounded great. You could probably boost your levels a little bit.
Okay.
But overall, your quality was fine. When you have a guest, somebody phoning in or calling in, it's a gray area how good their quality needs to be. You want it to be as best as you can make it.
Yeah.
But I do think most people are going to be a little more lenient on the guest versus a host.
Yeah, because it's you would expect us to come in with much more better quality because we've been doing this. As far as the guests, that they're just bringing earbuds and whatever mic that they have. Not everyone has a professional microphone at home, so it's understandable. I've had some really crappy guests with some horrible mics, and you just do what you have to do to boost up the quality, to try to improve the sound, whatever you can take out, whatever extra noise you can take out. It's work. That's one thing. Editing podcasts, I've learned that it is a lot of work. So I know what it is to sit there and even now when I watch interviews on TV and you're like, okay, yeah, he's stuttering there, or he's doing this, or he took a breath there, or it's a bunch
I do
of
the exact same thing.
yeah, it's so much different things now, especially when you listen to audio so much that you're already like, that kind of cringe is there. There's sometimes when I go back to listen to some of my episodes and for some reason my mic might just jump up and then the volume goes down. It's things that you can't control. It happens. But if overall your quality is amazing. Your quality I have no problems with. You sound great.
Awesome.
And so it was good.
Awesome. It is like that too when you listen, you go back to some of your very first episodes and you listen to them and you're like, oh, should I even keep this published on here? Ooh. But it's great because you can also see like the progression and your
and that was my thing. Was my nephew when I first released Stuck in My Mind, he was like, nah, we can't release it, we got to record. But I said it was just 5 minutes, it wasn't that long. I was like, no, but because I want people to see the progression from where I started to where I'm at now, where the quality of my audio is so much better now than it was when I first started. But that goes with time. That goes with how when you continuously record, you find your settings, you find where you want your mic to be at, where to place it at exactly, far from your face, and all. You learn how to maneuver around this. So that's how you improve, is by only just continuously doing it.
Same with interviewing. I'm sure you guys have this exact same experience too, but you really learn how to interview people because at first, I
was horrible.
Yeah, same. I would be like, okay, I'm going to count to 5, and after 5, we're going to start the interview, and like that's exactly what you don't do because then all of a sudden they're like, any calm that you created and camaraderie is gone because they're like, oh, I'm recording now. And so, yes, it's a big learning experience. So if anybody does go back and listen to some of my first episodes,
it's even learning how to control the show. Is I've had to learn to just know when it's time to go to the next question. And learn how to make sure that I keep my show within a certain time frame. So yeah, because when I first started, I was doing hour or so long shows. I don't need that. People don't want to sit down and listen to me for an hour. Let's do 30 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes, and keep it simple. And so I've learned to really condense it to really, and that comes with time and experience, because now you're like, okay, when you're first starting, you're getting all the hiccups out of the way, you're learning everything, you're learning that I don't need to do an hour, I can do 35 40 minutes, so it's all a learning process.
Yeah, one thing I always say, and you hear this from comedians or public speakers, that hosting is a muscle, and like any muscle, you have to strengthen it, and the more you do it, the stronger that muscle gets. The more times you interview, the more reps you do, the more guests that you have on your show, you'll become a better and better host. Like, I rarely do the ums and the hus. It drives me. If I did it, it would drive me nuts if I did it. So I recently I've been saying things and then ending the sentence with right. Like, if you were going to do that, right? Like, I keep saying right at the end of sentences, and that's something that I've learned to not do anymore, because
Yeah.
I've done this so many times. I can just keep talking without thinking about what I'm saying, and the conversation continues, because that's all I do, because I'm hosting and I know what to say next. See, that was just me talking. So
Mine was, and so that was my right at the beginning of any sentence. And so now whenever I hear that, just like right then, I'm like,
you pull back and you like, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. I don't do the uh-huhs and the All right, Ayla, my favorite part of the night, one that usually surprises most people, and we have the most fun uncovering, is the stream of conscious word cloud. So we had 7 votes come in, and let's see. And now this one is unlimited, so people can continually add words as they get inspired by your show. Let's go to the word cloud. Looks like 5 people kept putting in 29 responses, and let's see what some of the things that people said. That was me. 600 signs in storage. I already gave that one away.
I love the
And I
fecal
always
museum.
Fecal Museum. Great conversation, history, informative, entertaining. So the bigger the words, the more times that other people have used them. So, entertaining and informative popped up a couple times. A couple people used that. I see engaging in there. I think Aaron Burr. That wasn't his name. Was it Aaron? What was your guest's name?
Oh, Aaron Berger.
Berger. not to be confused with Aaron Burr. Educational was in there. Great questions. Good energy. The Vegas signs must be lit. We learned that in this show. Vegas Vicky is taken.
I love that one.
You can't marry. Vegas Vic married Vegas Vicky. Neon signs. Engaging host. There's another one of those engaging hosts. The Vegas Vic lights out. So these are good energy. There's a good energy on there as well. These are a lot of fun. Now you're seeing some of the inspiration people took from the show. What do you think of some of the words you're seeing?
I love it. I'm super happy to find out that it isn't entertaining, because you always feel like, who really wants to hear what I'm talking about and bringing to the table, especially when you're beginning podcasting. So it's really great to hear that was entertaining for people, because it's easy to be. I will give a lot of credit to listeners as well, because it's easier to be entertained and engaged when it's a one-on-one and you're actually having the conversation. I feel like it's a whole nother thing to be able to be a listener and still find it engaging. And so that's really wonderful feedback.
Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. We're so glad to have you here tonight. Ayla Anderson-Sparks, the Curator's Choice podcast. Anything you'd like to leave on a high note, or just tell people how to connect with you and reach out to you?
Yep, just thank you all for participating. And if you, like history, you're a history nerd or a museum lover, please just check out the podcast.
Awesome. CuratorsChoicePodcast.com. We'll have these all linked up in the show notes for those of you listening on audio. Wize, anything you'd like to plug, promote, talk about?
Check out my latest episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I had the amazing Jessie Torres on. She has an amazing story. Talks about being abused as a child and the murder of her 2 brothers, and it was a great conversation, and I really enjoyed it. So definitely check out the latest episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast on all major platforms, as well as Stuck in My Mind podcast YouTube channel.
Awesome. I'm Jeff. I have this behind me is the Paduti Podcast Theater in downtown Tarentum. We do live shows. We have a big event coming up in September. I was trying to get that up in September of 2025, but starting February 1st, Wize, myself, Maria, Phil Better, we'll be working together to put together a global podcast meetup. This is all part of a big event structure that we're building out. February 1st, go to paduti.com, get your free tickets at no cost. Paduti.com. There'll be 3 hours of podcast entertainment, education, speakers, masterminds, brainstorming. We're going to put it all together. It's February 1st, 2025, Paduty.com. I'm Jeff. This has been the Rise and Outshine with the Curator's Choice podcast. Let's hear that theme music.
We're asking the experts.